Random Thought.
This is Random Thoughts with your host, Andrew Pollock.
Coming to you from the beautiful New York City borough of Queens in Fresh Meadows, this is the Random Thought program here on Spreaker and simulcasted on YouTube on the Andrew Sports fan page. I am your host, Andrew Pollock. This has been a long time since I've done this program because, I've been rethinking it over, and it's time for a little format change. So whatever I want to talk about, I'm going to get out in the blue, since I don't want to show my face that much unless it's a special occasion. But yeah, this is going to be my new format. Just talking about whatever I want to talk about. I have stuff planned for this week, so don't worry, guys. Figured, first up, I want to get into the race for president, obviously. And, looking how crazy this race has gone into, okay? I'm going to be honest. What makes Bernie Sanders think that he can win tomorrow, okay? The polls say that he is close with 4 points, but you know how corrupt the Democratic Party is. They are going to make sure that Hillary Clinton wins this nomination, okay? And let me tell you, folks, even though the California primary, because I want to bring this up quickly, California primary is in 1 month. Hillary is going to win that primary by a huge landslide. You ask liberal Democrats in California, who would you rather have, Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders? You poll them. The majority of them will say Hillary Clinton. They would. They definitely would. The Democratic Party obviously owes a big favor to Hillary. So let's just make sure she wins all the remaining states to make sure she can get the necessary delegates that she will need. But let me tell you, if Bernie somehow wins tomorrow in Indiana, I'm going to be stunned. May stop Hillary for a little bit, her momentum, but I would be completely shocked if Hillary loses Indiana tomorrow. As far as the Republicans are concerned, Trump's going to win Indiana. Basically, I agree with what Mr. Trump has said over the past week. The race is over. I think Kasich and Cruz should just get out of the way. And personally, I like John Kasich, but I'm a realist, and he has few little delegates. Okay, he has few little delegates, 140-something. And Ted Cruz is crying again, like he always does. And yet he thinks that Carly Fiorina is going to help his campaign? I don't think so. To be honest, in my lifetime, even though I'm almost 21, I can barely even remember a presidential candidate announcing a running mate this early into the race. Usually, when you win your party's nomination, is when you announce your running mate. Not this early. I'm sorry. So, basically, if Trump wins tomorrow, he's going to be above 1,000 delegates, which I think the last number I saw from NBC, which they do a terrific job with the polls, obviously, 990-something was the number that he has. So, if he wins tomorrow, he'll basically get closer and closer to clinching the nomination. And California, I think, will be the state that gives him the nomination just because they have the most delegates in this race. And also, I want to bring up these protesters. I swear, these protesters are just clueless. There's even one guy who, I saw this on Twitter over the weekend. One guy had said, Trump killed Tupac. That's the most idiotic thing I have ever seen. And yet, just yesterday in Los Angeles, they were rioting over Trump. So, the immigration thing, it's controversial. And to this day, it's still a little racist to be calling illegal immigrants, drug dealers and rapists. But the only crime that they commit is crossing our borders illegally. And, I completely agree with Trump on his immigration. But a year ago when he said that remark, I took it as racist. But, still, our borders are not secure. We have to fix them. And, I'm curious to see what's going to happen once we know who the nominees are going to be. Because I know it's going to be Clinton and I know it's going to be Trump because my heart sees it that way. But, it'll be an interesting campaign in the summer months. And going into the fall, it'll certainly be controversial, obviously. But I will give my reaction on Wednesday. And, from there, he will talk more about it. Now that politics is out of the way, I'll bring up one more political issue because it involves something here going on in Queens. And I've been carefully researching it today. I have had a lot of time to, look into it. But Curtis Sliwa, you guys don't know who he is if you're not in New York. He's basically the leader of the Guardian Angels, and if nobody knows who that is, they're basically a group that, patrols the streets here in the 5 boroughs, and they make sure to, prevent crime, obviously, but lately I haven't been seeing them that much. But recently, Sliwa was just talking to the Queens Chronicle. Now, the Queens Chronicle is one of the free newspapers we get here in Queens, next to the Tribune, obviously. And recently, Sliwa was at a event in Middle Village. And he's basically in his speech, he said that the Queens County politics is the most corrupt next to Cook, which I can agree with Mr. Sliwa on that. And obviously, I also read another newspaper article. I forget which free newspaper it was, but I think it was the Tribune. I'm not too sure. But in another Queens newspaper, they quoted him talking about how the infrastructure is really bad here in Queens, and I completely agree with him on that, especially how right by Citi Field, it's like a third world country, and I agree with him on that point. And also, in the winter months, we seriously have way too many pothole problems. If it just gets bad here, folks, especially on the small streets. Well, not here in Fresh Meadows. I'd say more by Flushing, and I'd say right by the BQE in Woodside, which 2 years ago, when I did my job training to be an environmental services worker, every single day in February and March, the potholes were just a nightmare. Especially how I merged onto the Grand Central Parkway. But, the infrastructure here in Queens is just outdated. And the race is a year from now. I mean, even though he wants to talk his talk, Mr. Sliwa, but, he's running against his ex-girlfriend. I mean, Melinda Katz has so much influence in this borough. Now, do I see Sliwa winning? I really can't say because, again, it's too early, but it would make a lot of headlines here in New York, and I think the other four boroughs would definitely pay attention to what's going on here in Queens. Now, I know the rules about running for borough president here. You have to be a Queens County resident if you're going to be the borough president, because right now he lives in Brooklyn. So he was quoted saying that he will move to Queens and that he will run as a Republican. So that should really be interesting to see next year. So now that that subject is completely out of the way, I want to quickly get into this Grand Theft Auto story that's been bugging me since yesterday and was first reported, I think, last Wednesday, yes, 27th. So there was an article posted by Mirror.co, and it basically talks about how Paris suspect Salah Abslam is from Grand Theft Auto generation who thinks they're living in computer games. Now, when I read that quote, because first of all, it's originally from a French newspaper called Liberation. And when I see that quote, I think to myself, okay, maybe he makes a good point. But still, Grand Theft Auto 5 has been out for 3 years, and I am a regular player of GTA Online. It does not make any sense to just say, oh, we're blaming the video game for what happened to the hundreds of innocent people who were killed in Paris. I swear, that is the most idiotic comment you could ever make. Now, I will give you examples of how Grand Theft Auto in real life has actually happened. And that was actually the previous game in the series, which was Grand Theft Auto 4, which came out, believe it or not, 8 years ago. And there was 2 controversies with it. I figured I want to get into Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They basically begged the ESRB to change the rating from M to adult only due to, of course, Nico getting drunk all the time. And obviously that didn't happen. Now, here's what I remember. And this is on Wikipedia, obviously. I definitely remember this. In 2008, June 2008, after engaging in a crime spree in New Hyde Park, 6 teenagers assaulted and were carjacking. And as soon as they interviewed the teenagers, they said they were inspired by Grand Theft Auto 4, obviously. So, I guess the lawyer kind of makes a good point, but at the same time, you can't blame Grand Theft Auto 5 for one terrorist attack that happened last year in Paris. So, that kind of bugs me, and the community has been talking about it a lot, especially YouTubers like Mr. Boss for the Win, Lipsy Gypsy, and, am I annoyed about it? Yes, but, hey, people can make stupid remarks, and they get away with it all the time. I don't know how, but they do. And the last thing on my mind today. There will be a Space Jam 2. Yes. Warner Brothers officially confirmed it today. Thank goodness. Wow. I am really excited, folks. I am really excited. The Hollywood Reporter has reported that Justin Lin, directors of 4 movies in the Fast and Furious franchises, will direct the Space Jam sequel, which will star LeBron James, which we were all expecting. Now, problem. This is the problem. Can you have the original cast technically in the movie? that's a question that needs to be answered up in the air. Now, Charles Barkley, he can't be in it unless they want to put the NBA on TNT on, I guess, for, well, you could. I mean, you could put Ernie, Chuck, Kenny, and Shaq on one segment when the players are not doing their job when the aliens take over, if you want to redo the film like that. But, you know, maybe a sports-centered segment where Scott Van Pelt's doing his midnight thing and he's commenting, you know, but hey. Now, also the thing is you can't have, you know, Sean Bradley, Patrick Ewing, Larry Johnson, and Mooksy Boggs. I mean, they're retired. So, I've come up with 2 stars who I think will be in it. Actually, 3. I'm going to say Dwayne Wade, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant will be the other 3 stars. Now, Carmelo Anthony, I wouldn't know. But, again, that's my top 3 who I want to put in the movie right now. Now, as far as Wayne Knight is concerned, he could be part of it. He could be, you know, LeBron's agent in the movie. But, you know, the only Bill that you could put in this movie, Bill Hader. Now, why do I bring up Bill Hader? Well, he was in the highly rated Trainwreck movie with Amy Schumer last year. And personally, in my opinion, he gave one hell of a performance. So did Amy Schumer, but he's young. He's LeBron James, one of LeBron James' friends in real life, believe it or not. He actually is. And it would make sense for him to be part of the golf scene. If, of course, Bugs Bunny's trying to pull him back in the Warner Brothers universe. And while we're at it, if you're going to have a retired basketball player, you know, play golf with LeBron James in Ohio, why not Kobe Bryant? I mean, it only makes sense. But as far as the release date is concerned, they don't know when it's coming out. And the release date's up in the air, obviously, but, you know, I will double check to see if there is a release date right now, but if there isn't, oh, here it is. Despite previous reports alleging that LeBron James has also been confirmed to star in Space Jam 2, ESPN's Brian Windhorst has confirmed that no deal is in place. So, now it's up in the air as of 3:36, because as I'm recording, it's 4:16. Oh, boy. See, folks, that's why when you're recording, you have to double-check your information, and I just checked Complex right now, so, oh, boy. Oh, boy. But there is going to be a Space Jam 2. That's the main thing, but we don't know if LeBron's going to be starring, so that's the update I have as I'm recording right after 4 o'clock. So, yeah. And that will wrap it up for Random Thoughts. Thank you guys for listening very much. I am on social media at Andrew Sports Fan. I have a Tumblr blog, www.tumblr.com/Andrew Sports Fan. And until Wednesday, goodbye.